Hi, and welcome back. If you're new to the channel, my name is Vince. Thanks for stopping by. You're very welcome here indeed. So this is a clip from an interview conducted on the Patrick Bet-David podcast with Gary Brecker. Now, most of you will know Gary Brecker for his work in the health and wellness space. But before he transitioned into this, he was in the life insurance game. Now, I urge you to watch the whole podcast because it is extremely interesting. And I put a link in the description below to the full podcast. But in this clip, he explains how it's the insurance companies who have the largest database on human mortality and how they can tell what it is or what it was that started an individual on their road to an early death. Now, why would you trust an insurance company over, say, your doctor? I think because the insurance company has to make money. So the data that they collect has to be top notch, whereas the doctor is going to get paid anyway. Enough waffling off me. Let's get into it.
And this is when the model became extraordinarily accurate because these databases, don't forget, will have 370 million lives. And they have information that no other database has because they know the day, the date, the time, the location, and the cause of death for 370 million lives. So they pull that back into these records and they say, what led to this person's early demise, their early mortality. And you can go into the actual record and you can build a case to say they died at 77, but they actually started to die at 41 when this happened. They started a corticosteroid. The corticosteroid actually initially reduced their inflammatory cascade, but then it ate their joint like a termite. And as it ate their joint like a termite, it caused them to have, bilateral knee replacements. Post-bilateral knee replacement, this caused a reduction in their mobility, what we call the ambulatory profile. As you reduce their mobility, you bring in all the diseases that exacerbate with the reduced mobility. And as you bring those diseases from that person's future into their present, they now succumb to a disease that they likely never should have had, because very often they're on a medication that wasn't required, because of a surgery that was unnecessary, because of a diagnosis that very often was incorrect. And it was this type of research that led to the 2016 study that Harvard did that determined that the third leading cause of death in America is modern medicine. It's medical error, right? You have cardiovascular disease, cancer, and then modern medicine.
Well, I hope you found that interesting or informative, hopefully both. I think what he said there, and he continues to explain throughout the podcast, is extremely sobering. And remember, there's a link in the description below to the full podcast. Just think, using his example, how many people have had their lives cut short because of an error that was made so early in their life, and how as the operations and the medical bills grew over the decades, it would be highly unlikely that the medical professional who made the first incorrect diagnosis that ultimately made them or their hospital or their clinic a lot of money will ever be held to account for starting the early death ball rolling. Let me know what you think, but I, for one, can't wait until things like AI catch up and replace or reduce human error.